Hey everyone, Steve here once again, making a video on installing Mac OS High Sierra 10.13 onto my Gigabyte Brix Pro. If you haven't seen my previous video, I installed Sierra 10.12 onto my machine, and so far has performed well. Since that video, I've been working on getting High Sierra on this PC in a stable form, and I'll share what I've learned. The version I'm installing at the time of this recording is 10.13.3, but from what I've seen, the newer updates work fine. The easiest place to obtain the OS is on the Mac App Store. Besides the OS, I'll need accompanying software to assist in the installation. Before getting to that, I want to thank the ToyMac x86 community, as well as the Insanely Mac forums, because without them, this video would not have been possible. Starting with the software from ToyMac, I'll need Unibeast to create the USB installer media, Multibeast for the first round of patches, and EFI Mounter V3 for remounting an EFI partition after restarts. Outside ToyMac, I'll need software such as iCax by Dr. Her on SanelyMac.com, the VoodooHDA audio kex from SourceForge, and this is optional but Clover Configurator from AltaVista.org. A spare USB with at least 16 GB of space will also be needed. Starting with the Unibeast Creation, on a Mac PC with a copy of High Sierra downloaded and a spare USB inserted, I opened Disk Utility and formatted the USB with a GUI partition scheme in a Mac OS Extended Journal format. With the USB format, I ran Unibeast and went through the pages with a UEFI boot mode and no additional selections. The process to have a working Unibeast drive took around 10 to 15 minutes, and when done, I had the bootable media ready to go. On the Brix Pro, I inserted the Unibeast drive, powered up the system, and pressed F12 to get into the boot options, and selected the USB. On the USB's Clover selection page, I selected the option to install Mac OS High Sierra and wait for that to load. After the language selection, at the macOS utility screen, I went to Disk Utilities to format my SSD. Unlike in other versions of Disk Utility, I had to change the view to display the drive instead of the partition, and I had to unmount the previous partition on the SSD. I gave the new partition a Mac OS Extended Journal format and a GUI partition scheme. With the SSD format, I went back to the utility screen and installed the OS on my new partition. The first part took a little more than 5 minutes. The installer restarted, and I booted back into my Unibeast drive and selected the new option Boot Mac OS Install From with my partition name. This loaded onto another installer screen, but restarted again within a minute. I chose the same boot options again and got back to the installer screen, but this time it stayed on the screen for about 10 minutes. When the second installer finished, I booted again into my Unibeast drive and from my partition, and now got the standard Mac OS startup menus which I breezed through. Since the OS is on the PC now, I can begin patching starting with Multibeast. Extracting and running Multibeast, I selected these options. Under Quick Start, I selected UEFI boot mode. On the Drivers tab under Network, I selected the first Realtek option, version 2.0.0. I didn't select anything else and kept the iMac 14,2 definition. I would have liked to have made the system definition close to the internal specs, but unfortunately I found that Brix was most stable with the default selection. With those items selected, I installed those patches, which took less than a minute. When Multibeast finished, I restarted immediately to have the changes take effect. Thanks to having the Clover bootloader installed, I no longer needed my Unibeast drive and inserted the boot into the OS. After signing in, I get an error window along with a prompt to send diagnostics to Apple. I'll address this later in a video, but for now, I just ignored it. This is optional, but I wanted to adjust the specs of the machine for the config.plist file. So I ran EFI Mounter V3 to mount my EFI partition that holds the config.plist file. I then ran Clover Configurator and opened the plist file, which was easy to get to thanks to a shortcut at the bottom of the window. I navigated to the SMBIOS tab in the left pane. Here I can adjust some small details of the machine. Since the iMac 14,2 definition works, I'll be sticking with it, but want to add things like the manufacturer date and serial number to make it a little bit more authentic. To do this, I clicked on the up-down arrow and found the iMac 14,2 selection. The text boxes are automatically filled. Before saving and closing, I copied the serial number, went to the RT Variables tab, and pasted that number into the MLB text box, along with 5 random digits. With all that set up, I saved my plist file and closed the application. I proceeded to work on audio. To install it, I extracted my copy of iKext and ran that along with a copy of the Voodoo Kext. I dragged the Kext into the application and allowed it to install. After it's successfully installed, I restarted the PC and tested the audio. It worked as expected. At this point, the PC is almost completed. Usually I would have included things like trim support for the SSD and SSDTPRGen for device management and sleep-wake for the system. After testing with and without these patches, I noticed that they don't make a difference in High Sierra. If anyone's planning on replicating this process and notices either random lockups or not waking up from sleep or devices not being recognized, I would suggest using both patches from my previous video. The last fix I performed was related to startup error messages. As far as I can tell, this error is related to how my system definition was set up for my previous video. In that video, the system was an iMac 16,2. Even though I performed a clean install, that definition was still attached to this PC. What led me to that conclusion was related to the error log. I assumed this was related to UEFI settings on my PC, and since there was no settings needed in the BIOS to get the Hackintosh working, I decided to reset the PC settings by removing the CMOS battery. To do that, I unplugged the PC and removed the bottom plate. I unscrewed 2 screws holding the motherboard to the case, detached the antenna cables for the wireless card, and carefully removed some plastic pegs holding the back I/O shield to the rest of the case. With some careful maneuvering, I got the board out of the case, flipped it over, and removed the cable connecting the battery to the board, and held the power button down for a few seconds. I reinserted the battery connector, put the board back into the case, closed it up, and powered the PC back up. When I booted the system again, I had to go into the UEFI boot menu and change the boot order back to my SSD. After saving that, rebooting and logging back in, I no longer see the startup error. Now I have a stable system that I believe is satisfactory. At this point in the video, I'll just go over the current issues with the PC. The first issue is with powering up the PC. If you're like me and keep the PC on a surge protector and turn it off regularly, when booting up the system after turning on the surge protector, the boot up process may stop with a crossed out logo where the Apple logo used to be. As far as I've seen, this only occurs during this scenario, and forcing the PC off and on again solves the problem. The second issue is with the internal wireless and Bluetooth card that came with the PC. As I've covered previously in the last video, the Azure Wave card that is housed in this PC isn't compatible with macOS. There are 2 solutions to solving this: either buying a new compatible card and replacing the old one, or using external USB dongles like I did. For my proof of concept, I used a Bluetooth dongle I had lying around, and a relatively cheap USB wireless dongle from Amazon. You can see for yourself that the Bluetooth dongle is picked up automatically by the PC, and I can add peripherals with ease. For the wireless, I just need to download and run some drivers to get the adapter working. With that installed, I have no issues with getting online with a wireless connection. The downside to using dongles is the possibility of using up most of the available USB ports on the device, unless you use a USB hub. A third issue with the PC is no audio over HDMI. Currently, I haven't successfully gotten audio to go through the HDMI port. Personally, I don't care for it because I prefer to use headphones, but I know some viewers would like the option for another audio output. On my last attempt, I tried using a guide from user Toledo, which I'll link in the description, but didn't make much progress after the second set of kex and edits to the config.plist file. Also, unless someone can correct me on this, even if I got audio working through the HDMI, the only way I would be able to control the master audio volume would be through the monitor controls itself and not through the settings or menu bar. That wouldn't be a great solution either, but I'm open to listening to other solutions, and I'm sure others would appreciate it as well. The fourth issue I've come across is the graphics performance in macOS. To anyone that wants to use this PC for gaming, additional work will be required to get the integrated graphics to work correctly. I can see in the About Mac window that the graphics are detected in the correct amount of dedicated memory as well. Unfortunately, on tests like Cinebench, comparing this PC with it running different OSs, you can see a large drop in average frames per second. There's obviously a setting missing. In another example, I ran Rocket League on the Brix with Windows 10 and got a good 60 FPS and a 1080p picture without tampering with the settings. Using the Brix with macOS, however, I had to adjust the settings just to get to be smooth enough to play. It can play lightweight games just fine though, and no problems with video playback. But any graphics intensive work will require more fine tuning. The last issue I encountered, and mentioned this in a previous video, was the noise it gives off for anything CPU intensive. Basically, any type of heavy workload will make the PC sound like a hairdryer on full blast. This seems to be a problem with this model Brix Pro, and currently the only solutions people have pointed out are using a liquid metal on the processor to help it cool down, or modifying the case to use a better CPU fan. I may go down the liquid metal route eventually, but I'll save that for another time. Besides those issues, the PC works like any other Mac and can be used for day-to-day use if you know the current limitations. I personally used this Brix Pro to do some day-to-day tasks, including writing the script, and didn't feel hampered by performance. I was even able to update the machine to a newer version of High Sierra without issue as well. Before ending the video, I just want to mention that I'll be attempting to install macOS Mojave onto this PC after the first revision comes out. I'm also looking at purchasing an 8th gen Intel NUC to install Mojave on as well, but I'll have to see if any price drop occurs during the rest of the year, so be on the lookout for that. But that'll do it for me. This is Steve signing off, and thanks for watching.